Hi, everybody. I have a treat for you today. I have my second female on here. We started off with 3 dudes, but I finally got the girls in the mix. And I'm trying to throw in a bunch of different looks for you. So I'm going to have some other classroom teachers, and I'm going to have some administrators, and I'm going to have some counselors. And today I have a special ed teacher, a friend of mine. Please welcome Miss Shayla Jessen to the studio.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
We connected. Never got the opportunity to teach together in the classroom, but just through PLCs and other meetings and people that we know that know people and hanging out. And she ended up coming to one of my New Year's Eve parties. We had a lot of fun together. So it's been fun. Even though we've gone in different directions as far as where we're teaching, we've still connected and made sure that we stayed in contact. So it's been awesome. Shayla, you've seen some of the episodes and kind of know where we're going with this. So the idea is to help other teachers stay in the profession and give them something to smile at. So tell me something that you will never forget about your teaching experience.
Well, my very first year of teaching, I was a co-teacher. And so that means I was like the second in command with another teacher. And she was teaching a lesson. I can't even remember what we were teaching about. She was an English teacher. So I'm sure there was something in the story, and I had to say the word organism. And so I'm sure we can all kind of guess where the story is going. And all of a sudden we keep going, whatever. And in the back of the classroom, this girl, she just starts losing it. She's laughing. She's trying to hide it. She's like crying basically. And people around her are laughing. And finally we stop and we're like, hey, what is going on? And she is just trying to like gather her composure, and she's dying. And she's like, well, you just said orgasm. And then everyone is laughing and dying. And me and the teacher are laughing. And we're like, nope, sure did not. Sure did not. So that was one of my very first times ever having to be like actually teaching in a classroom. I'm like 6 months pregnant. It was great.
One of those things you can't ever get back, right?
Oh yeah, never. Nope, never.
Speaking of that, so I was out of out of college for several years before I decided to go back to become an educator, and that journey gave me the opportunity to go do some substitute teaching at all of the schools in where I'm from. And one of the schools I got the opportunity to go back and substitute teach for was my alma mater, and I was so excited. I was getting my master's degree. I was getting ready to get into the classroom full time, and I wanted to make a big splash, right? So I create this really cool flyer that I was going to stick in everybody's mailbox, all of the teachers at my alma mater. I will let you know that technology has changed quite a bit in the 25 years that I've been doing this. Because now, if you were to type something that was either misspelled or the usage was wrong or it had poor grammar or words were messed around or whatever, it'll let you know, right? Well, in 2000, that technology wasn't as stout as it is right now, we'll say. So I've got this whole sheet together. I've got graphics. I've got all kinds of stuff on it. I was really, really proud of it. Clean. I checked it, right? No squiggly lines, no indications that anything was wrong. I get it. I print it. I shove it in everybody's mailbox. And I had not even gotten out of the building when I went to go drop those off before somebody stopped me and showed me that I put alma mater, M-A-T-T-E-R. Now, that technology didn't give me a little squiggly line because matter is a word, so it's not like I spelled it wrong, right? I just used it wrong. Very big lesson about proofreading that I learned from that before I even got into the classrooms from some of my... Actually, it was a former teacher of mine that showed it to me. So a little embarrassing on the front end as far as that was concerned.
Yeah, speaking of being an English teacher, I had to teach a English class for a few years as a special education teacher. And that was definitely a journey. I had a lot of really cool students that we had a lot of fun stories from. And one of my favorites was I had a boy from an English class that I don't know what we were doing. It was me and a bunch of other teachers. We were all in a car together. We were going to Los Hermanos. That's what we were doing. And we drive past this kid, all the windows are down, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so and so." I must have said it a little louder than I thought I did. And of course, he whips his head around, and I don't know, somebody was waving or something, and he swears up and down that we flipped him off. Swears up and down that we flipped him off. And so for
Did
the
you like
next,
give
like,
him a what's up or something like that?
we must, I don't know. I'm sure I was probably doing something stupid like waving or, I don't know. And he swore up and down that we flipped him off. And so from that moment on, after he told me that story, every time he saw me, I mean, whether we're in the classroom, in the hallway, he's a mile away from me at the bus stop outside, all I can see is him going, and that's all we did. And he forgot
Playfully,
about
right?
it. What?
Playfully, right?
Oh, entirely, entirely. And he had forgotten about it. And I saw him at my boss's retirement party a few weeks ago. And before he left, I was like, "Hey," I thought he was going to pass out.
One of the reasons I think both of us kind of connected is because of our ability to develop relationships with kids and find them where they are and then take them to where they need to be so that they can be successful. You know me, I'm as loose as you can possibly imagine and get away with. I have had kids for my entire career say, "You can't say that." And I'm like, no, 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 you can't say that. I can say that.
I can say whatever I want.
The whole first year teacher fail makes me remember my actual first day of student teaching, where it is that I got the opportunity to go back and teach at my alma mater, mater not matter, because I was 10 years removed from when I had graduated. So I'm all nervous. I'm excited, but I'm nervous, and I've got all of my stuff together. Do you remember those great big English literature books, just like a
Mm-hmm.
brick? I had 3 of those in my satchel and all of the papers that I was going to pass out. No big deal. Got it all there. Obviously, I can't close it because it's just jam packed. I go walking down the hallway. I hit the stairs, go through the first flight of stairs, and my dumbass thinks that I'm still in high school where I used to take steps 2 and 3 at a time. I make it to the first landing fine. I get to the top of the second landing and turn my brain off just for a half a second and clipped it with my toe and just boom, face down, stuff everywhere. If that's not embarrassing enough, the class where I was going to teach is right there. So I have the keys to unlock the door, and all of my students who I've not met yet are standing there waiting for me to show up. And that was my entrance. To make it better, one of the first things I was going to teach them is the importance of a first impression. So how ironic that their first impression of me was face down, butt up with stuff everywhere. I started this idea of a book called You Can't Make This Shit Up. And I'm serious, you can't make this stuff up.
Another thing that came of that English class that I was teaching with this same group of boys, actually, as my little flip-off friend. We had a student that he was just a little frazzled. I don't know what was going on. It wasn't anything crazy. He just kind of being goofy, couldn't quite get his mind to settle down. And he's like, "Miss Jessen, how do you spell dog?" And I go, "I know you know how to spell dog. You can do this. You got this." And so goes back, he's frazzled, whatever. He finally turns in this paper. And I look at it and I go, "What the hell is boog?" He spelled it Boog. And so it just turns into this huge, all these boys are dying laughing, crying, and it becomes this huge joke for years and years and years and years. I don't know, like a year or so later, I pulled this kid over. We haven't talked about it for a while. And I go, "Hey, will you draw me a dog really fast?" And he's kind of, like, okay, whatever. He draws me this just god-awful little dog. I mean, nobody knows what it is. It's been called a rhino, a cow, vaguely a dog. And so he's like, "Why did you want me to do that?" And so I sit there and we created a whole art piece out of it. And we titled it like you would in an art museum, Boog. Framed it. I had it hung in my classroom. It kind of moved spots so they never took it because that was always a threat that they were going to take it from me. At one point in time, I made a t-shirt that I would wear occasionally, and it was this whole joke. And so, as I had made the decision to leave the school I was teaching at, I was like, I would really like to have a tattoo that kind of like helps me remember, all the adventures that I had. I'm pretty heavily tattooed, and so it was something that I definitely wanted. And so I went and got, where's he at? My boot.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And so now I will never forget our lovely, lovely boog story. And it's one of those things that the student ended up going to Project Shirts, and he chose me as being his person to like present his diploma to him when he finally got to finish that program. And again, this was the story that I told in the video that we did, and it to this day, the teacher that's in charge of Project Church, he goes, "That's probably one of the best videos we've ever taken was the Boog story."
Not only did you have an impression on that kid, but you will never forget that kid, right? You
Never.
don't have the opportunity to forget
Never.
that kid now.
No, never. So then after I got my Boog tattoo, I posted a picture of it on Facebook, and these kids have all since graduated, so I'm friends with most of them on Facebook at this point. And later that night, I get this huge comment from one of the boys, and he's referenced all the boys in the group. They're all signed at the bottom, and there's this huge comment talking about how we never did anything in your class, and blah 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 blah. We always had so much fun, we'll never forget this, things like that. So I'm sobbing, and at 11 o'clock at night. But it was just one of those things that maybe I did have a little bit of an impact on them.
I've received feedback from kids like that before about how we don't ever do anything in your class. I used to let it bother me. Like, how could you possibly say it? Look at all the stuff that we've done. Look at all the stories we've read. Look at all the conversations we had, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's come down to, and this is a thing that you and I share in common, I think it comes down to our ability to have relationships with kids and develop those close relationships with kids. I think they end up having so much fun in our class that they forget that they're actually learning because it's not the same environment as some of the classes that they don't like. So they don't look at it as I have to go to this class. I get to go to this class, and it feels like we're playing around even though they're actually learning something. I think that is unique about what we do.
Yeah, and I definitely think, this is something I've sat on my high horse about for a very long time, is if you are not going to build a relationship with the students, you should not be a teacher. I think that if them as people do not come first and you put that curriculum first, I don't think you should be a teacher. End of story.
I've received feedback on evaluations where it seemed like the administrator was surprised that I was so open and honest with my kids and tell them about my own faults and my own failures and laugh at myself. Like, your ability to connect with them is just next level. I love the way you turn a story into something that you've actually experienced in life. And that just struck me as odd because I'm like, there are teachers that are not doing that.
Yeah.
How do you do what you do if you don't show them who you are?
Exactly. And I think especially with us having high school students, that is such a vulnerable time in their life where, they're going through so many different things, whether it's personal life, whatever. And they need to have somebody that they look up to that says, you know what? I screwed up that same way. And this is how it went for me. And this is how you can avoid it in the future. And I just think that's so important to them.
Even if they don't take the information, at least they're armed with it. You know what I mean?
Yes, they have it.
I've had so much fun talking to you. Thank you for being willing to sit down with me. If you can think of anything else as we go along, I'd love to have you back on.
Yes.
You shared with me that you're getting ready to head out to the Wichita area.
Yep.
So wish you the best. Please keep in touch. I want to know how you're doing.
Yes, of course.
Have a good one.
You too.